Okay, so picture this. There's a war being fought right now, but it's in total darkness, miles under the ocean. It's a silent, high-stakes conflict, and the prize isn't territory or oil. It's the internet itself. Today, we're diving deep into that secret war. So let me ask you a question. When you think of the internet, what pops into your head? Wi-Fi signals bouncing around, satellites in orbit, or maybe just that vague concept we all call the cloud. Well, here's the thing. The internet doesn't really live in the sky. Nope, it lives at the bottom of the ocean. That cloud we all talk about is actually a massive and, as it turns out, pretty vulnerable physical network of cables. That's right. Over 99% of all international data, I mean everything, your emails, that show you're streaming, every single global financial transaction, it's all traveling through hundreds of fiber optic cables stretched across the seabed. This is the internet's real circulatory system. And this physical network is, without a doubt, the lifeblood of our modern world. We're talking about $12 trillion in financial transactions relying on these cables every single day. This isn't just about social media. It is the absolute bedrock of the global economy. So you can probably guess what comes next. With so much on the line, these cables have turned into a new kind of battlefield, a place where nations are fighting for power in this shadowy new type of conflict. Welcome to warfare in the gray zone. So what exactly is gray zone warfare? Well, it's all about plausible deniability. Think of it as hostile acts, like, say, cutting a cable, that are designed to create chaos and give you an edge. But they're just subtle enough that it's really hard to prove who did it. That way, you avoid triggering an all-out war. And look, this is not a drill. This isn't theoretical. It is happening right now. Just look at this pattern. We had two critical cables cut in the Baltic, which threatened to digitally cut off countries like Finland. Then, a cable near Taiwan was damaged in what experts are calling classic Chinese gray zone tactics. And in the Red Sea, repeated cable cuts have messed with a quarter of all data traffic between three continents. These are not random accidents. This is a pattern. So who are the players in this underwater chess game? We're not talking about your average Navy here. We're talking about highly specialized, top-secret units that operate some of the most advanced spy ships and subs ever created. You have to understand the technical difficulty here is, well, it's staggering. Tapping into a tiny fiber optic strand, one that's literally as thin as a human hair, deep on the ocean floor, without messing up the data flow, it's an incredible feat. It's considered almost impossible. But that key word there is almost. And really, only a handful of nations can even play this game. You've got the US with its ace, the USS Jimmy Carter. Then you have Russia's fleet, led by ships like the Yantar and the massive Belgorod mothership. And here's a twist. Even seemingly normal civilian ships, like China's Yapeng 3, are now suspected of being used for these hybrid gray zone missions. Let's start with America's top asset, the USS Jimmy Carter. This is a $3.5 billion spy sub, and it is a masterpiece of underwater espionage. It has this unique 100-foot section that basically works as an underwater garage, letting it deploy robotic vehicles to, allegedly, tap right into those cables. It's a modern take on a long legacy of undersea spying that goes all the way back to the Cold War. Now, on the other side, you have Russia's super-secretive Juji unit. They run a fleet of about 50 deep-sea vessels. Their flagship is the Yantar. Officially, it's a research ship, but unofficially, it's a mothership for mini-subs that can dive deep enough to reach 95% of all the internet cables on the planet. And funnily enough, it's often spotted just hanging out right over some of the most critical cable routes. But here's where the story gets even more complicated. These malicious attacks, they're only part of the problem. The entire system is under this incredible strain, creating a perfect storm of vulnerability that goes way beyond spies and submarines. For all the fear about sabotage, most of the damage still comes from pretty mundane stuff. A quarter of all the breaks were caused by ships literally just dragging their anchors. Another 28% from fishing gear and things like that. But see that 31% of unknown causes? Yeah, that's the slice of the pie where all that gray zone stuff likes to hide. And this problem is just getting worse and worse. The average time it takes to fix a broken cable is going through the roof. I mean, the trend here is seriously alarming. Just a decade ago, it took around 18 days. Now, we're looking at over 50 days. The internet is becoming more fragile just because it's taking so much longer to patch up. So why the huge delay? Well, it comes down to a crisis that almost nobody's talking about: the repair ships themselves. These specialized vessels that do this incredibly dangerous work, they're old. A staggering 2/3 of the entire fleet is set to be retired in the next 15 years. That's creating a massive capability gap right when we need these ships the most. Okay, so that's a lot of bad news. But here's the payoff. The world is finally waking up. After years of what you could call benign neglect, governments are now scrambling to protect this vital infrastructure. The fight back has officially begun. And the response is coming from all angles. First, we're seeing new alliances. Over 30 nations have signed on to the New York Principles to protect these cables. Second, there's a ton of new funding, like the EU dropping 347 million euros. Third, new rules are being written, like the US banning gear from untrusted companies. And fourth, we're seeing enhanced surveillance, with missions like NATO's Baltic Sentry kicking off. Let's just zoom in on the EU's plan for a second. They are literally building what they call a cable security toolbox to fight back. And the goals are pretty simple, but they're powerful. Get member states to work together, fund the right projects, build more repair ships, and protect Europe's most important cable projects from risky suppliers. But just as the world is starting to get its act together to protect the physical hardware, this secret war is, well, it's already evolving. It's moving to its next, even more sophisticated front. See, the new focus isn't just on cutting cables anymore. It's about tapping them to steal our most sensitive encrypted data. The strategy is basically steal now, decrypt later. They're hoarding all this data today, just waiting for tomorrow's quantum computers to be powerful enough to crack the codes and unlock all of our secrets. And that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question. For years, the biggest fear was that an adversary could just cut the internet. But now that the technology to tap these cables is a proven reality, is the next secret war about something far more dangerous? Not just cutting the internet, but secretly controlling it?